Hey, this is Chaplain Tony Repic here. Just want to remind you that this podcast does not imply any endorsement of any commercial organization, product, or belief system. Well, hey everybody, welcome back again to the Balance Podcast. This is Chaplain Tony Repic out of Biddle Air National Guard Base. I'm really excited that you're here. Hopefully tuning in, maybe for the first time. Maybe this is your third, fourth episode, but I'm glad you're here. I got a really awesome guest in today. But before I get to her, I want to just give everybody just a heads up. The podcast, why does this thing exist? What is this all about? Well, mind, body, spirit, social, physical. That's the four components of Airman Comprehensive Fitness. And we're trying to help you as an airman, your family members, civilians that work with the Air Force, the DoD in general, to be healthy in life, successful at work. And so we bring these awesome topics to you, experts, if you will, in certain different fields, that we can give you tools so you can build your toolkit and you can build this life plan that I'm going to get to in a future podcast. But today, as I said, I'm excited about this guest. Her name is Lauren Sheehan. She's the president at a company that I have a tremendous affinity for. I used to work there for 9 years. The company's name is Softerware. Lauren was a boss. She's been a friend, a mentor. I've learned so much from her. And today she's going to share some leadership principles, some challenges through the pandemic, some new working habits, if you will, that her and her company have adopted, and just some resources she's going to provide you. So again, you could be successful in your job. You could be successful in life. And so without further ado, I'm going to introduce Lauren Sheehan to you. Lauren, tell us a little bit about yourself, and thanks for being here today.
Yeah, Tony, it's really nice to see you again. And I always enjoy working with you and talking to you, so I'm really proud to be here, and thanks for inviting me. My company, Softerware, was founded in 1981. We're located right in Fort Washington, Pennsylvania, so we're right off of the Turnpike. And we are a software company that is providing one of the top marketplace solutions for nonprofit organizations that need to track donations, want a technology to help with their fundraising efforts. So we have just about maybe about 175 employees. We've recently transferred to a remote first workplace, which is something that I think we'll probably get into today. Yeah. And that was a big transition for us. So I think that, you know, our culture was something that really has set us apart, something, you know, that you got to experience firsthand. We've won a lot of awards for our culture, and actually just a couple weeks ago we found out that we've made the top Philly workplace list for the Inquirer for now the 10th time in 13 years. Nice. So we've done a lot to build a really strong culture at Softerware. We are proud of the solutions that we offer to our clients, and we've got great people working there that are literally, our time and energy and talents are all spent helping organizations that are literally making the world a better place. So it's a fantastic way to earn a paycheck. You know, absolutely. I've got a great job and really feel fortunate.
And I'm biased here because I worked at Softerware. I love Softerware.
And we loved you.
And I always said the only way I was ever going to leave if I had an opportunity to be full-time military, and that opportunity came to me. And so here I am as the chaplain here at the 111th, right, literally like in front of Fort Washington, or where you guys are headquartered out of. Yeah. And I've appreciated, you know, your leadership over the years, your friendship, and just I still have connections, as you know, with some of the workers over there. But so. How long have you been there? And tell me quickly about where you started. And so you're president now, but where'd you start?
So I've been there for 13 and a half years, actually. I never thought, man, if I think back to my original interview, I had no idea that it was going to develop into this career that lasted, you know, well over a decade and is going to probably hit 2 if I'm lucky. So I started as the client relations manager, managing a small team, 3 people that were focused on helping our customers with any issues, service issues, product issues, and one member of the team was doing, you know, communication, so in charge of writing to our customers and maintaining like technical documentation. So again, this is a tech company. We had, let's say, back then we had an actual instruction manual, a user manual that was shipped out with the little disc that contained Donor Perfect, which is, our product. So it was a really small team managing 3 people. When the technical support manager at the time was retiring, I was asked to take over that team. So I went from managing 8 people to like 48 people, basically overnight. Had a few more promotions, did a good job with that team. You were part of that team. We really just rebuilt that team and totally, I feel like, revolutionized how our teams were helping our customers and putting in some good systems about how to keep the team accountable, what the expectations were. You were a big part of that. So just really laying the groundwork for people to be able to succeed there, both the team members and our customers. Then I was promoted a few more times, and in middle of last year, found out that the co-founder, Nathan Rellis of the company, was planning to retire, and he basically hand-selected me to take on his role. And he's been a mentor to me for many, many years. Probably one of the best human beings that I've ever had the pleasure of meeting and knowing. And so now
I agree with you on that. By the way.
he's great. And so now I'm leading the company with my partner Doug Schoenberg, who's the CEO, and Eric Foster, who's the CRO, and we're kind of like we have a great leadership team that extends way beyond that, but it's pretty cool to be at the helm and taking on these new challenges, especially during such a challenging time with business and society, all these things going on. There's no manual for this. There's no instruction book. Right. Right.
We're going to get into some of that today. So I appreciate you sharing your story. So you managed a team of 3, and now you're the president of the company in 13 years, and you've seen all kinds of different things take place.
Yeah.
One of the things that just struck me as you were sharing this is this idea of transforming, seeing transformation take place. And you talked about teamwork and effort. And can you just share a little bit about, so you mentioned customer service, because, they're a large part of the military. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of roles that we're customer service people. We take care of people. We take care of a product that we have to produce for our members so they could do their job. And so folks that are listening, they are really like that term piques their interest.
Okay.
Can you talk a little bit about what was successful about some of that transition that you went through, that you saw in your teams, or some of the mentality of how things were approached?
Sure. Good question. People, in order for anyone to be successful at their job, they need to have clear expectations about what is expected, and spending some time thinking about what is required for different levels of performance, and talking about that really early in their career. So that's part of your first 2 weeks at Softerware is, hey, we're going to lay this all out for you. You're just starting. You're going to be overwhelmed, with information. You're learning a new job. That's a huge transition that you're taking on. But it's never too early to set your sights for maybe what the next chapter in your career. So if you want to excel right out of the gate, go read what it's going to take to be at that level. So we can actually provide that to them, right? So this is unsatisfactory performance. Here's where we're at for meeting expectations, and then there's a couple levels above that. So, and certain aspects of how we're managing performance are hard skills, right? You're not going to be able to be an expert in how Donor Perfect works in your first couple of weeks, but you can start working on what an A+ attitude looks like, what A+ teamwork looks like, and those soft skills matter so much, and it's really important. And just, hiring the right people it is also a big part of, I think, what has been a big part of Softerware's success.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm almost looking for some of those innate qualities more than I'm looking for technical expertise or savvy. It's what type of work ethic do you have? How do you treat other people? Are you curious? Do you want to learn more? Do you have the heart and the desire to achieve more and to do right by your customers? And so that was a really long-winded answer, but I think setting expectations is really important. And so a lot of that wasn't clear. I think that's something that I think that we brought to the table, is just setting those really clear expectations. Holding people accountable. And, you can't hold anyone accountable unless what you're looking for is known and understood and just like out there. Trying to think, there's probably some other things, but that's what comes to mind right out of the
and I think some of the things you're mentioning, they seem common, like they're common sense, but they're overlooked. They really are, because someone says, I have this hard skill, I can code, or I can pick up 38 calls in 7 minutes or whatever, right? And sometimes that gets overlooked because they're trying to not one up, but they're trying to give an edge to themselves, right? And while that might work at times, there's nothing better than having someone that has the right attitude, heart, and team mindset to want to accomplish the bigger purpose and mission. Because if we're all moving together, we'll all have opportunity. It's when that one person tries to jump out in front of everybody and steamrolls people behind them. So the expectation piece is huge. So I have a question for you. It sounds like, too, and I remember kind of doing this early on, and I think Softerware probably is still doing this. Expectations aren't just set from your leadership down, but there's also from the bottom up as well. There's expectations about maybe what someone's coming in to do and what they want, and whether or not you can meet them as a company is a different story, but it's good to have that open dialogue and conversation. Right?
So I don't know if this is exactly to your point, but when we're interviewing candidates, I always stress that this has to be a two-way match. And I'm asking them, tell me what are 3 things that you're looking for in a job?
That's good. They're interviewing too, basically.
It is, and I give them this whole speech in the beginning, and I say, you might think that you're in the hot seat here, and certainly we're evaluating you as a candidate, but just as much you should be evaluating us, because the reality is that we spend most of our waking hours at work, and if you have happy employees, they're going to take care of each other, they're going to take care of the customers, and so you should be evaluating a potential employer just as much as they're evaluating you. So those interviews really are a two-way conversation, two-way dialogue, and two-way evaluation. One thing that your earlier commentary just made me remember is when you're talking about transforming the mindset of the team and what was required for our team to continue to be successful in new ways, was the mentality of sharing knowledge. And we used to tell a story about a member of the team who was really, really good at one area of the program. And I'll just say it, again, for your listeners, we'll just say, we'll just make up a name. It was feature ABC, right? They were really, really good at it. And every time a call would come in, they would, anytime that anyone had a question about feature ABC, they were on it. They would take over other people's work if it was related to that. And they thought that their expertise in that area was the value that they brought to the company. But it was really like putting cement in their shoes, because that was such a unhelpful way to be. They weren't sharing their knowledge. And when we were putting those expectations in place, we were saying, we want you to share that knowledge. And so I don't want you to take over every single case or do all of this work. I want you to make other people as knowledgeable as you are about feature ABC. And that is the true sign of success. So a rising tide lifts all boats. And again, a lot of this stuff, Tony, it probably sounds like, once you hear it, it's like, oh, well, that's obvious. None of this is rocket science.
Yeah.
It's just sometimes we need those reminders and refreshers, because you just get those, I don't know, the blinders on, and you're just like moving through this.
You know what it is? It reminds me, even here at the Biddle Air Base, 111th Attack Wing, I know there are, because I'm here full time, there are certain positions that are siloed, and there's only, this person, they're not here, they're on vacation. And we ran into that at Softerware. Oh, that person's on vacation, we can't help them out with this area of the product right now. Yeah. Or somebody here can't get into a system because only they have access. And sometimes we look at that as, like you said, like, oh, that's great for me, it keeps me employed or whatever. But that's really a bad mindset.
It really is.
Because you created a point of failure when you're not able or capable of being there. So you can't take vacation. Right. You can't rest whenever you need to rest, you know. You can't have a weekend off because if something crashes, they got to call you. Yeah. This is why you share that knowledge. You build collaborative teams to trust each other and break silos. So I think what we're saying is some of this is common sense, but I think the issue is people don't know how to do it. Yeah. Leaders don't know where to start. Yeah. They don't want to step on someone's toes by saying, you no longer are the guru. Because that comes across as, you don't value me anymore. So it's trying to reframe the mindset of individuals, which is very difficult to do. Yeah. But you have to do it sometimes.
Yeah, you have to do it. And if you put it in, again, we put it in black and white and said, the highest level rating that you could get for technical knowledge is that you're doing training sessions and you're helping and coaching on this stuff. So again, you can make it happen. Sometimes if you just write it down. Exactly. Sure. Again, that's a simple example, but it helps. That's certainly one way to do it. Some of what you're saying here also reminds me of a lesson that I learned from a classic business book, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, about the mentality of abundance rather than the mentality of scarcity. So a lot of times that was one of the first, leadership books that I read, and one of the lessons that I've carried with me all this time, because I think a lot of times you get in this mindset where the pie is only so big. So if somebody has a big old piece of that pie, or gets a big old piece of that pie, there's less for me. Wrong way to be thinking. That pie is as big as you want it to be.
Grow the pie,
Grow the pie, grow the pie. Yeah. And so, if you're a leader with that scarcity mindset, you have a hard time sharing recognition, you have a hard time giving credit, and you have a hard time in truly celebrating the success of others, because that success is one that you didn't get, and there's some issues there. You know what I'm saying? So if you guys haven't read that book before, it's an old classic. I think it's been a while since I've read it, but I think it probably still holds up quite a bit. And that was something else that I wanted to share as I'm thinking about that particular team member who, we were able to work with them to change the way of thinking. And so if you wanted to read more about it, you could do so in that book.
It is a great book. It's actually on my bookshelf.
Is it? Okay.
It is, yeah. It is a great book, yeah. Good. And you're sharing resources, which is part of this, part of our time together as well. So for those of you that are listening, there's a resource for you. So as we transition, I appreciate you sharing that, because I think folks that are in leadership need to hear this over again. Yeah. I think individuals that are just breaking into their careers need to hear this. I think seasoned individuals need to reshape this. And here's why. You mentioned something that I want to segue into. I think it's a perfect segue. You said we spend more of our time at work than anywhere else. And if you look at your hours in a week, a lot of our effort is on our work. something has changed over the past couple of years. We are no longer physically in a place now. We're doing this remote work thing. Now, as we segue into this, I know you and I have already had this discussion, but I mentioned to you as well as the military, the government, other businesses have struggled with how does this work?
Yeah.
How do we trust people in a remote environment? Should this be a long-term solution, or is this a temporary Band-Aid until the pandemic, whenever that's going to end? If it hasn't ended, I'm not even sure.
I don't know.
But has it ended, right?
Yeah.
But it seems like it's not going anywhere, and Softerware has pivoted and done something pretty unique. And I hope you share that with us now.
Yeah. Just
about how you guys worked through this and where the company's headed with regard to remote work.
Yeah, sure. So we packed up our bags March 12th of 2020, and we were told we're going to go work from home for the next 2 weeks.
2 weeks, huh?
2 weeks, 2 weeks. And that 2 weeks has turned into well over 2 years. I happened to be at the office yesterday. There's still some people that are there. We still have a couple of years on our lease, so the office is open and available, but 99.9% of people are working from home, and we've been able to achieve some pretty impressive business results, record-breaking business results. So, we are being successful working from home. So our leadership team said, there really is no reason to call everybody back to the office. And listen, all different companies are trying to make these decisions, and we see it playing out. Google and Spotify and all of these different, Fortune 500 companies are trying to figure this out. And they're, if we weren't achieving such great business results, we probably wouldn't have made the decision that we did.
That makes sense.
But we did. So we're fortunate there. The biggest challenge for us was how we're and still is, because we haven't figured it all out, Tony.
Sure.
Is what the culture of the company looks like, because I was telling listeners that culture was really important, and a lot of that was because we shared the same physical space with one another, and we were able to connect with our employees and do fun things and have team building events, and that we haven't seen some of our coworkers in person for over 2 years now. So it was the fall of 2021 where we had an executive meeting offsite. We were all together, and we said, you know what, with the we'll say recruitment, hiring market, and that is what workers are demanding. They want that flexibility to be able to work from home. So if we don't make this move, we could be at a disadvantage from a hiring and recruiting standpoint. So it's still, we made that announcement less than 6 months ago. And so, as I was telling you earlier, for most of the last 2 years, we were just making it up as we go, and we were just in survival mode. And it was we're gonna come back eventually. So we're not gonna go through our policies and change too many things in a permanent way. But now that we have made the decision, we need to go through and do that. So Julie and I are going through the employee handbook and making changes, saying we don't need to talk about pets at work or children at work. It doesn't matter.
Doesn't apply anymore, yeah.
But I think that leaders in particular have struggled when it comes to trusting their employees. And, we have lost some of the ways that we used to stay connected. So we have to kind of find new ways to do that. And when I brought the whole leadership team together at the beginning of April, and we did a little exercise where we just ran through certain scenarios, and I asked the members of the audience to raise their hand if they agree. And many of the questions, we were split half and half. Should an employee be able to throw a load of laundry in sometime during their workday? Half said yes, half said no.
Wow, really?
And it's crazy because if we think about it, in the office, there was downtime built in.
Of course.
You know, you're going to get a cup of coffee, you're going to talk to a coworker about, you know, a social thing, you know, a show that you watched last night. And so we would walk down to Wawa to get a nice coffee or, you know, get lunch. So it's, it makes it even more important to be clear about expectations and the outcomes that you want, be communicating well and often about what the deadlines are, more frequent check-ins, because, you know, and they have to be more planned out, because you can't count on running into somebody at the water fountain or something like that, at the water cooler. So you have to be deliberate about it. And I think, geez, there's so much I could go into here, Tony, but like there's also additional responsibilities and challenges that come with what's happened with a lot of people's mental health over the past 2.5 years. And so, you know, I think being a leader at Softerware and probably many other places, you're more than just a boss and a supervisor. You're a coach, sometimes maybe a therapist, maybe you're a friend. All of these things, and the role that you need to fill now is different than it was 2.5 years ago. So checking in for people on people's well-being is really, really important now. The flip side of that, right, there's almost two edges to the sword. Some managers feeling like, hey, if they can't see the work that their employees are doing, none of it's happening.
Yeah, they're not working.
They're not working.
It's not true, though.
Not true. And the other side is because the boundary between home and work is not really there anymore. We've got people that are working way more than they should. Yeah. And they're not taking the time to reset and recharge. And you know, so it's two different two different sides of the spectrum there. So yeah, we certainly don't have it all figured out, but we just some principles that might be helpful. You know, the importance of communication has just skyrocketed. And so we've started doing pretty regular video updates from members of the leadership team that are able to be shared out either through email. We happen to use Slack in our office as I was going to ask you that. You're using Slack now, yeah, an in-office messaging tool. Yep. So just being able to see somebody's face and hear, you know, the tone of their voice, because so much gets lost in written communication. So, you know, it's very easy to just shoot off a message or send an email, but, you know, you have to have that personal connection and try to maintain that. You know, I don't know if you've heard the phrase keyboard courage, but you know, we were doing some exercises with some members of the leadership team where some things were getting lost in translation when we were writing it, and the intent wasn't clear or was being misinterpreted. I had them read their written words out to each other, and they came to the realization that if they were actually having a conversation, they never would have said it that way. Right, that miscommunication never would have happened. Sure. And you know, don't take shortcuts with communication. So communication is really important.
Hey, this is a great place to stop here on this 2-part podcast. Tune into the second part of the Balance podcast.